You've probably heard that speaking is one of the best ways to attract clients, but maybe you've tried it and still walked away with no follow ups or clients or even opportunities. So, what's the deal? What's missing? For me, for more than a decade, speaking has been my most reliable way to grow my business. I've tinkered, I've tested, and I've turned more than 150 free talks into more than $400,000 in business, but without ever feeling pushy or salesy or self promotional. Here's what I figured out. Getting clients from free speaking is both an art and a science. So, in today's episode, I'm giving you 5 of my most simple, but not so obvious, strategies. These are things you can start using right away to turn your next free talk into paying clients and new fans. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Establish Yourself podcast, the show that helps coaches and consultants get clear on how to talk about what you do, simplify your offers, and have more fun in your business and beyond. I'm Annie Franceschi, brand strategist, author, former Disney storyteller, and forever Muppet fan. I'm here to help you clarify your message, package your expertise, and streamline your systems to grow a business you actually enjoy. If you're ready for less confusion and more magic, it's time to establish yourself. Free speaking is my favorite marketing strategy, and it's also been the most timeless. No matter what's going on with social media, the algorithm, the news, across 12 years in my business, free speaking has been there for me in every economic market. I know that I can do a free speaking engagement and for sure get visibility, people on my email list, people to talk to me, and quite often paying clients. It is the number one way that people discover me. Just last year, I spoke for free 33 times, and that directly led to $73,000 in client work. Nothing in my experience has been as reliable as a discovery and conversion tool as speaking. But truly, you have to know how to do it. There's definitely a strategy to it, and I have mine that I've honed over the better part of 10 years. Speaking can be an incredible marketing strategy. You get to be in front of your ideal clients, but you don't have to organize that event and you don't have to market it. People are literally bringing you your amazing ideal clients and then giving you the floor to present for 30 minutes or more. Uninterrupted attention. But here's what I see happening all the time. I see a person get up, deliver great content, they get wonderful feedback, maybe they have some business cards, but nothing. No follow-ups, no consultations booked, no new clients. Just this week, I watched this play out. I was at an event where another speaker had great content. He didn't offer any way to sort of capture the content except, hey, you can take a picture of my slide. At the very end, he offered a QR code to quote unquote book a call. I saw maybe a couple of people take a picture of it, and that was about it. This was a room of like 70 people. I also spoke at this event. I followed a lot of the strategies that I'm about to teach you, and I walked away with 8 free consults, requests for 14 more, and more than 20 people joining my email list. It was the same audience and the same opportunity, but the difference wasn't necessarily that I was a better speaker. It's knowing some of the best practices that most people don't even think to do. I want to spare you from the trial and error and share what actually works. So today, here are my 5 best practices you maybe haven't heard of that can completely transform your free speaking. When you get this right, speaking becomes this incredible way to build that know, like, and trust factor and have your ideal clients discover you time and time again. Our first strategy today, make sure your talk is the perfect first step to working with you. A lot of speakers I see choose topics that they're passionate about or that they happen to know something about. But here's what I've learned works so much better. Your talk should be something that naturally ties into your experience. It should feel like the beginning of working with you. If somebody learns from you and then they need more help, that next step should be something you sell. That's going to make a much better talk than something you just happen to do or know about, but you don't actually have any services for. Let me give you an example. My client, Lauren Atherton, I taught her how to package her process into what she now calls the brand level up. So when she wanted to speak, she decided to focus on the very first step of that process, which is refreshing a logo, and she made her entire talk out of it. That talk was so successful, she got 10 leads from the event. She even booked a client within a week because it was so aligned to her message and her services. That is the natural next step. There's more about this conversation in episode 38 if you want to hear Lauren talk about it directly. So before you agree to speak for free, ask yourself, can you do a talk around something that naturally leads into working with you? That should be the next step. My second strategy, weave in why you're the expert without listing your biography. Here's what I see all the time. People either don't talk about their expertise at all because they're worried about sounding braggy, or they do this awkward biography dump at the very beginning that feels forced and boring and takes people out of the presentation. Neither works. You want to naturally integrate, weave in your story and expertise through your content in a way that feels very organic and entertaining. I'll often say something like, "Thanks so much for having me. I am a brand strategist today, but many years ago, I used to work for a mouse." And then I'll show a slide of the Walt Disney Company, which always gets a laugh. Then I'll show a picture of Cinderella's castle, and I'll say, "It's been 12 years since I worked for Disney, but one thing I think about every single day is this: everything is about how you tell the story." I use that as a frame to talk about brand messaging. This allows me to reinforce the point that I used to work for Disney and that guides the work I do and makes me an expert at what I do. I don't get up there and talk all about my Disney experience. I naturally integrate it as a teaching point. Do you see how that works? I'm not just listing my resume. I'm connecting my experience to the value that I'm providing right now in the moment in a way that's memorable and builds trust. You do need to share it though. You can't go the opposite way and not talk about yourself at all because then no one is connecting, hey, all this great expertise to, oh, you do this for a living and I can hire you to help me do that. So your biography and your experience matter, but don't list it off like bullet points. Really share it in the context of what you're teaching because you're establishing yourself as a credible expert, as the right person in the room to be teaching it, to really reinforce what you're sharing today. Your opportunity here is to naturally, in a storytelling way, fold in your expertise so it feels like, oh, of course she's explaining this because that makes her the expert at this, and I'm going to now trust what she has to say. Along these lines, the third strategy, keep your talk engaging and interactive. Remember, you're entertaining too. When you're presenting, especially for a free speaking engagement, you're often doing what I would call edutainment. You're educating, but you're also entertaining. People need to connect with you personally, not just learn what you have to share. One of my fun ways to do this is a game that I call Guess the Movie. So instead of getting up there and talking about my experience first, instead, I throw up descriptions of Disney movies, but I describe them in completely wrong ways. Like I'll say, hey, anyone know this movie? Father wants son to take over the family business. That's Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back. Or aliens invade Hawaii and emotionally manipulate orphans. Somebody guesses Lilo and Stitch. People love this. They're laughing, they're engaged. Meanwhile, I'm accomplishing a lot at once. I am starting with something that gets people involved so they're not tuning out and thinking about their phones. I'm reminding them and setting up the fact that I worked for Disney. And I'm demonstrating my very core message, which is everything is how you tell the story. It matters the words that you use. I'm showing them that instead of telling them. This works so much better than standing up there and listing my biography and losing half the room in the first 60 seconds. I'm showing them what I do while we all get to have fun together. You want to also avoid having text heavy, overwhelming slides that cause people to zone out. If you have to strain to read tiny text, you are no longer connecting with the speaker. You want to keep things simple, visual, interactive where you can. Some people think I've lost my mind when they see that I'm speaking for 30 minutes, but I have 100 slides. I haven't lost my mind. I'm just not staying on a slide too long. I have a couple words here and there on a slide. Sometimes I have bullets, but truly, I'm trying to move the story along and keep people moving with me. You want to keep yourself entertaining and engaging people all along the way. Because if people forget you or they don't stay connected to what you're saying, they're not going to become your clients. They're not going to refer you for speaking opportunities. You want to be memorable, and that often means being entertaining. Our fourth strategy, use client stories to prove your point. Too often people just present information, statistics, etc., but everybody loves a story. What really builds trust is grounding the information you're offering in real examples, client stories, case studies, examples from organizations you work with. I don't mean standing up there and going, here's a case study. I mean using real client examples to prove your point and make your content come alive. When I do my talk on how to package your process, I will often make the point of things like, hey, you could call your offer the half day leadership training, or you could call it Taming Toxicity Workshop. That is a real example from one of my clients. And I actually use that throughout the talk. I'll use that example and a couple others to illustrate my point. And I'm not going, look, here's my portfolio. Look, here's a case study. I am making the point of here is someone who's doing it well. By the way, they happen to be my client. When you're building know, like, and trust factor, you want to be asking yourself, how can you bring your work to life? A great way to do that is through stories and the real examples. Don't bore us. Talk about the problem and the solution. How did someone go from A to B? Tell us the story, share the example, help us to see the work you do in action. Real examples help people better understand what you're trying to teach them, but they also give them a sense of what it's like to work with you. And it drives that interest at the very end when they want to come talk to you and maybe work with you after you've presented. This is why, if client stories or any elements of what you actually do are missing from your talk, you might be missing opportunities. You may not be getting those follow ups because people aren't connecting your expertise to actual real ways of working with you and what those results can look like. Last but not least, my fifth strategy: offer a clear, valuable next step. This is huge, and this is where people will go all the way to the 1 yard line and fumble the whole thing. I see people get up, they've given this amazing talk, and they're like, okay, you can contact me. Here's how to contact me if you have questions. But, huh? For what? And why should they? You want to be providing a specific next step that people can engage with, and it should feel valuable to them. Something like a free consultation or a valuable resource. And maybe you have done those things. But what I will often see is if people have something like that, they really minimize how they talk about it and they don't sell it. And I know I'm not saying you should sell from the stage or anything like that, but remember that even if they're not going to pay you for something, they're still giving you their time. And you have to remember everything is how you tell the story. So, what story are you telling about the next step? A story that's just like, hey, contact me is not much of a story, right? A story that's like, if you're struggling with X, Y, or Z, you can set a free time to talk with me is a better story. If you are working on this, grab my free checklist. Here's how to get it. Again, that is a better story to tell. It connects what they're wondering about, what your talk has naturally gotten them thinking about, and provides that natural next step. You want to take this opportunity as well to remind people what you do. If you did what I teach you, which is really near the beginning, establish who you are and what you do and tie it back to something you offer. You want to bring it back around because people may have forgotten or they need that final reminder. So, what I will often do right before the end of my talk is I'll say, I'm so glad we could talk about this. Don't forget, if you know what you do, but you struggle to communicate it, I am here to help. And then I'll tee up what the next step is. And it's often a free consultation with me. I'm being very specific about the problem I solve and what I can do to help. And you want to make sure that you are teeing up that next step. You want to position your next step as something clear and valuable because when you do that and you make it easy for people to do, people will take that step. You want this to be as friction free as possible, as clear and easy as possible, and people will take action. This is how I am able to walk into a room of strangers and walk out with a list of free consults and people who've jumped on my email list because I'm making a clear and valuable next step. Just a few weeks ago, I spoke for a coaching association. 14 people in the room, 45-minute presentation. By the end, I walked away with all my free consults sold out, plus requests for 5 more. That means 10 of the 14 people in the room wanted to talk to me about working together. All 14 joined my email list. And within just 2.5 weeks, I've booked 3 paying clients from that room alone so far. That's the power of knowing what to do and what's worth doing. Now, you may be thinking, this all makes awesome sense, but how do I actually put this together? How do I know if my talk topic is the right one? How do I weave in my expertise without feeling awkward? This is exactly what I am teaching at a brand new pop up workshop called Clients from Speaking. I'm going to give you my entire system, the exact process that I have used for more than a decade to generate hundreds of thousands of dollars from 100 plus clients solely from free speaking engagements. I'm going to take all the principles I taught you today and help you go deeper. I'll show you the little strategies that make a big difference, like approaches I've tested to get 50 to 100% of your audience to join your email list on the spot, how to get up to 70% of the room to sign up for a free consult with you. And I'm even going to put in my simplified signature talk outline. So you will have a way, step by step, to plot out your own smart talk. If you've been speaking, but you are not seeing that translate into business, or you want to start speaking strategically to grow your ideal client base, this training will give you everything you need to make it happen. Clients from Speaking is Tuesday, October 28th from 12 to 1:15 p.m. Eastern with a replay. Join us at greateststorycreative.com/pop up. Let's quickly recap those 5 best practices that'll take more of your free talks and turn them into paying clients. First, make sure your talk is the perfect first step to working with you. Second, weave in why you're the expert in your content in a natural storytelling way. Third, keep your talk engaging and interactive. Remember, you're entertaining too. Fourth, use real client stories and examples to prove your points. And fifth, offer a clear, valuable next step. Remember, when you nail this, speaking becomes an incredible way for your ideal clients to discover you, no matter what is going on in the economy. You get to spend quality time with people who need what you offer, and if it's a good fit, they walk away feeling like, where have you been all my life? That's the power of strategic free speaking, and it's absolutely something you can learn to do, and I'm here to cheer you on. Hey, do you like surprises? The credits are about to roll, but just like a Marvel movie, stick around to the end for something I put in just for you. Thanks for listening to the Establish Yourself podcast. I'm Annie Franceschi, and if you're enjoying the show, it would mean so much to me if you follow it, leave a quick rating, or share it with a friend. And for free branding resources and more ways to work together, head to greateststorycreative.com/podcast. Now here it is, your moment of magic. On the speaking front, I'm going to put myself out there and say publicly that I have had a dream for a really, really long time in the back of my brain to try stand-up comedy. I am putting that here for another accountability push. This is one of my strategies that I've used over many, many years because I like to procrastinate and there's always a million priorities. So I know that if I put something out in the world and I talk about it, that kind of tends to push me to do it. So I would encourage you, if there's some sort of unspoken thing you want to do, one of the best strategies I found to make something happen is to tell people. So I am telling you people, you person who may be listening to me on a walk. And now that I'm telling you, when you see me out in public, you should be like, Annie, how's that going? That's the compounding effect, right? That's how I wrote books. I started with, I think I'm going to write a book. And I just kept talking about it enough that I was like, okay, I guess I have to write this book because enough people know about it that now I'm getting bothered about it in public and I don't want to look like a flake. So I'm going to do this. So putting it out there, stand up comedy. You want to put something out there? You can tell me and I'll be your accountability buddy.